Change management. Change management is a very important part of most business models. You can study management, but change management is a little harder work. One World Trade Center Edition. That's what the name of this change management video is. Because when the World Trade Center was destroyed, a lot of people didn't know that it was then named One World Trade Center, and that there are some people who want us to just have one world and have global and international initiatives. J'aimerais engager un avocat spécialisé dans les droits de l'homme international. Mon cas a été présenté à la presse au Canada. Je suis le porte-parole de 5 groupes dans l'action en justice contre les États-Unis. J'ai tout examiné, j'ai beaucoup de preuves. There were 8 judges at the international courts when I first started thinking that I needed to bring my case to the international court. Now there are 18 judges. This is the exemplary Judge Karim Khan, who is now looking at the warrants for Israel, and this judge is looking at the Philippines. Now, Pierre Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, he really did say we have to stand by international law. So we have somebody, one of the big men of the world leaders, who is supporting the ICC. And these are all the ICC cases. Now, there's a cause of action in the Gaza, and this is another chart for cause of action. We are now worried about the history of Donald Trump. In 1869, Frederick Trump was in Germany. In 1933, the Holocaust began, and we even have the chart here. They killed the Jews and took so much from them. Jews used to complain that they didn't even take rugs. So eventually they moved 775 million, which they took from the Jews who they killed, to Swiss bank accounts. Well, Trump's grandfather, he had a poorhouse in Missouri, then he went back to Germany and took some of this money that was seized from the Jews to America to build America. So we have to be careful. We will have to watch Trump, because when we had the pandemic, he made a joke about drink Lysol, and he recently made a comment about using people up. So my reality is October 9, 2024, my Jamaican banker was replaced by an African-American banker. I immediately contacted the president of the bank, the banking committee, and went on the internet to complain about this. So I went through my own Holocaust because I was bullied out of my job with the city of Delray Beach. But first, my son's brake line was cut, and I really wasn't able to get this through to the FBI or to anybody in particular. But I'd like to go to a court because there was evidence of some kind of overkill. They bullied me out of my municipal government job. They took my house, my condo, they stalked and robbed me, and then I had other incidents. At I Think Financial Credit Union, they took $25 out of my account and closed the account. So I'm telling the president of this credit union, oh, no, you don't. So September 2024, I called the state, and I saw evidence of African-American coup d'etat, which was affecting me because the staff said Norma left. So she was so excited. Somehow she knew that I would know what that means, because the white lady was pushed out of the city of Delray. She went to another city, and I was also pushed out of that city. So the African Americans took over. That's a coup d'etat. So November 2024, it has been very intrusive with the state. Now, I understand. I've been through so much that I'm making this video. So you must know I'm very angry, and I've contacted a lot of people. And you will see who I've contacted and why I'm the spokesperson for this. These guys, the 9/11 pilots who were in West Delray and their friends are still in West Delray, they don't have English to tell in detail what really makes them angry, what's upsetting them about the system, the culture, the American way. So when Obama killed Osama, he also got a $12 billion TARP bailout for Chase Bank. He got $28 billion TARP bailout for Wells Fargo, and Wells Fargo had to return it because people went to court. However, so I guess some of that money is funding the Obama free phone program. But I feel like the free phones are not being used so much for work, but I think they're used for networking in the coup d'etat, and I'll show you the instances why. So Dick Cheney and his daughter Liz, they are both in politics. It's a beautiful family, I must admit, but felt like some people were getting permission to do certain things which might violate my human rights. And then I saw the permission structure on the internet. And then Meryl Streep was talking about another permission when Donald Trump was ridiculing a handicapped person and imitating his disability. That was permission to repeat evil acts or normalize that kind of ridicule and conduct in America, in the community, beating down others. So this is another kind of permission. When I bought my property, I worked a few jobs in Walgreens in the city and bought my condo. I saw the sheriff over in my neighborhood, so I spoke to him and I said, "We're looking for you." And then when I got my job in Boca, I would go in sometime 2 o'clock in the morning just to help the owner. And here was the sheriff in the Boca Raton Police Jurisdiction at 6:45 a.m. Saturday, March 18, 2022. So that's another kind of permission. They didn't speak to me. I saw them and I took this picture because I said, oh, the only time I interacted with them was when I was with the city of Delray Beach. Anyway, so I called this situation, I said I got some acronyms because I might want to write a textbook on this. I have another video called the Prey Code of Hunter Gatherers. Well, it's called the Prey Code, but I call this Obama Free Phone Prey Conquest Bragging Nigger Gang Stalking Bullying OFNA. And I call it Permission from White People like Dick Cheney and white people with power like Donald Trump, WAPA. So here's an internal coup d'etat. Now I'm in a charity. I volunteer as a hostess on Saturday, and then I volunteer at the boutique. And it's only half a day each. Well, three to 4 hours each. But this guy here is a director of worship, and I wanted to do a presentation, which I did at King St. Gregory's Church, and he said he has to look at the presentation first. And this is a guy who has given some kind of power over something on the Saturday mornings. I think it's closed. This is an internal coup d'etat in Napoleon's time, 1799. This is inside the court area or inside Senate or something. Anyway, there's somebody in the podium there. So this is the external coup d'etat which I experienced. Is the African-American state trooper was ticketing me back to back and towed my car, but he was at my job. He was in my house putting leaks in the kitchen, and the FBI said they were investigating me. This is the external coup d'etat, 1799, Napoleon's time. So the reason why I'm using the phrase coup d'etat now is because I saw this on the internet. It says Project 225, inside the far-right strategy to world government, blueprint for a soft coup. So you see, the Republicans admit they're having a coup. The African Americans did not admit they were having a coup d'etat, but they were very vigorous. Their aggression towards me, bullying me out of my government job and other things, towing my car and things like that. So I put this video together. I have a coup d'etat video also. This is about change management. So the soft coup d'etat, which the Republicans are effecting right now with Donald Trump in charge, will sort of stop some of the aggression that's happening from the African American coup d'etat. Well, it's just another kind of problem. It's somewhat, amount of misogyny. Like, looks to me like the only living pilots look like the Trump Miss Universe contestants. I don't see any ugly pilots on the internet. So I guess Trump says we have to do something. He said to complain about a problem rather than fix it is not good. That's the same thing Kamala said. So he's fixing the problem for companies, reducing the taxes so that hopefully they can do more, produce more in the United States, and also maybe buy robots. So here's Kamala Harris and her sister, whose mother was Shamala. Shamala said, don't just complain, do something. So they had those white women's record-breaking Zoom meetings for the Kamala Harris campaign, and then they had the black woman's record-breaking Zoom meeting for Kamala Harris election campaign. Of course, she did not win the election, so we have a king now. But she did get her points across. She said, anyone who beats down another is a coward. And then we have Meghan Markle, who is saying, our communities, we have to believe something is possible. You know, your career is possible. The things that you like to do, like I like to do social media and I like to do investments. I like Bitcoin. So here's John Sarbanes, my favorite senator. His father, Paul Sarbanes, was also a senator. He was saying that it is 300 million Americans against big money. So now here's Trump reducing the taxes for all the people with the big money, all the rich corporations and everything. But we'll see how it works out because Trump is also doing some little stimulus funds for people. So Trump said you have to love yourself. That's one good thing. Trump now has a robot dog on the property of Mar-a-Lago. It says USS. So it's the Secret Service has a Chinese robot dog. So here's the big men of the world. I hope the big men are not killing us off and putting robots. So here's Tesla's Elon Musk. He said he paid $15 billion in taxes 1 year. And so Trump paid a lot of taxes too, and he paid $750,000 when he had a case in the American court. So, but he pardoned Kushner and Beth Mason for not paying taxes and going to prison. So most presidents are big men, except for we have the president of Germany. I think there's another one, I don't remember her name. So the probability of this scenario that we'll have 31 million rich and 300 million dead replaced by robots. I kept talking about the probability. So many died in COVID, and there's other bioterrorism. So I kept editing and redoing my change management video because of the possible scenarios. But Trump is being nice to poor people. He is still selling out stimulus money. So who's working? There's a robot working. The AI is so advanced that it has imagination. Here is Elon Musk with his robot helping him in the kitchen and a robot helping him with the groceries. Here's a robot nurse, robots in construction, robot construction team of 4. That's Trump's dog. And Kim Kardashian also has a Tesla robot. So Trump reduced the taxes from 21% to 15%. I hope he'll reduce the misogyny, you know, with his beautiful wife and son and that Stormy Daniels, that woman he was with. We hope he can just show more respect to the woman in his life. So I feel like all these coup d'etats are at crisis stage. And people with power send other people to do bad things. And I think somebody sent somebody to kill my sister, but I don't have proof. I was just discussing it with one of her dear friends. I was talking about the art of devaluing and degrading a woman in America, and that actually Republicans do it more than the Democrats. The Democrats and Kamala Harris were really standing up for women. So how the feature of the American culture being sent. 1967, a big white man was sent in the airport to my house in Jamaica, and he talked to us. My dad was a Cuban fighter and a mechanic in the Royal Air Force, a Coca-Cola manager. So He told the man, please leave. Then a white woman came and she had a watchtower awake. And it so happens that I had asked Mama an important question and she didn't answer it correctly, but the magazine was discussing that matter. And so I started reading those magazines, and next came the Jackson Five. And when I heard their talent and how they tolerated our very tiny airport, they came in so early in the morning, like 1 o'clock in the morning, a tiny airport sitting on the bench looking tired, and but had a really wonderful concert. The music was so great. So I was a Jehovah's for 30 years because of that. So the most recent is a Jamaican guy who works for Publix was sent to say something to me. It was really rude. I've seen him recently, he doesn't say anything else. That guy was also sent to say something rude to me. I'm trying to develop my skills, my talents, things I have a passion for, my love for Bitcoin, my love for social media, and the people who I love to watch. Abir Sag, which is Lebanon. I just love to watch her. And Khalid Alameri also. There's people on the internet who are all over the world who I like to watch. So instead of divorce court, the African American police gangs were sent, and they just abused me so badly and took my car and everything. Then these guys, which I told you about them while I was working in Boca Raton on my second job. Now I'm trying to stay online because Florida Atlantic University Business School gave me some really incredible classes. And, you know, I had the privilege of working in one of the best business model Walgreens drugstores as a cosmetician while taking my classes here. And then Walgreens had a merger and acquisition, which was, they are now Boots Pharmacies of the UK and Walgreens together as a company. And you can see the products in the Walgreens here. So everything to do with business, which I was learning at FAU, I also was able to practice it. Like, for instance, I took real estate and I bought for sale by owner a condo, and then I got my dream house. So I would like to build upon that foundation from the business school of my Bachelor of Business Administration and Management. So this is one thing I'm talking about, the art of devaluing a woman. This is Kanye West with his wife. She's having oral sex where people can see. I don't like it. He also walks with her nude all the time. And I was talking about the symbol of devaluing and degrading woman is a symbol of degrading their identity. Their face is the first thing you see. Now, O.J. Simpson's wife, she had a stab in the back which killed her, but her face was also mutilated. You can see it. And Rihanna also had it. You see the similarities? So I think that it's symbolic of the art of devaluing and degrading a woman. The psychological attacks were spoken about by Meghan Markle when she was 11 years old. She talked to Procter and Gamble, Linda Ellerby, Gloria Allred, and Hillary Clinton. She next went to UN Women. But I heard a fraternity playing a song that talk about whores on their tippy toes. So when the Republicans reversed Roe versus Wade, not only did they make the American court invalid, but they also set women back. Of course, we voted abortion back in. So Dr. Douglas Fields says that humans are genetically predisposed to kill each other. Well, seems like hunter-gatherers like to ridicule, abuse, and like misogyny, and we're predisposed for that. So I come from a different culture, which has caused me a lot of conflict. I have a different thinking style and different expectations. Thinking styles and expectations, I noticed that ever since 1967, when Americans started coming to my parents' house in Jamaica, I heard the word equality thrown around, but we never really dealt with the correctives for the differences. The differences from different cultures are clear by different thinking styles and different expectations. So hunter-gatherers, as Hal Draper said, they have social controls of ridicule, ostracism, and public debate, and shunning, and gossip. And I did not know this when I first came into the country. That's why I make a video call at without any warning, because I did not have enough warning about how my culture would clash with American culture, and how I had such a different style of thinking and such different expectations. But one thing I noticed, that when the social controls of hunter gatherers erode, they turn into misogyny. I think it was misogyny why I was bullied out of my job with the city of Delray Beach. I had a good written evaluation. But misogyny does turn into threatening, aggressive, intimidated, or violent behavior. So misogyny is normalized by making millions of music with female degradation in it, where women are called whores. So we don't want them to get away with it, like they got away with O.J. Simpson's wife murder. They said drugs were involved. What they can get away with is what you let them get away with. That's why I'm speaking to you through this video. So these three sisters, O.J. Simpson's wife sisters, it's a deep-rooted thing. I tried to contact them to let them know how my process, everything I went through and everything I experienced in my lack of justice, no divorce court, and for my children. I saw gangs in government, and then now they just replaced my Jamaican banker at the credit union. So you see, it's a very bad problem. Back to these O.J. Simpson's wife, sister Nicole. Nicole has 3 sisters. I have 5 sisters. But they said the grief hasn't let up. For you go through 30 years of grief. And I feel like I tried to contact them foundation and talk to them about the things I experienced, because I went through a lot of things, a lot of misogyny. So we have to do prevention by support system. I want you to realize I'm the spokesperson for you. I want you to tell me everything that's happening. I'll compare it to things that's happened to me. I'll try to find you resources, people to talk to make notes about the problem, because we are going to court. We want detection by attorneys. Attorneys can put your case together properly to present to the court. We want justice in the courts. We want reproductive freedom. We want women's health care. Of course, we just voted abortion back in. But the justice in the courts is a problem, because first they were toying with Donald Trump in the American court like he was a clown. They treated him like a clown, even though he's now president. But then they made the court invalid by reversing Roe versus Wade. So Camelonomics was not realized, but we do have our sororities like Zeta Phi Beta sorority, and she spoke to a lot of really good groups, and she says, we have to get things done. So being specific, I'm talking to Caribbean diaspora globally, because Caribbean people have a different thinking style and different expectations. That's why we leave the Caribbean and go all over the world. My best friend is in Berlin, Germany. She studied French with me, and she studied German, and she lives in Germany. My sisters are in the UK, 2 half-sisters. I studied French to go to school in Canada, but I end up here because of Jehovah's Witnesses. So Caribbean Diaspora Lives Matter is a powerful dialogue. I am in communication with them. Mostly I post them my videos. And it's a believe in your culture because it matters. Caribbean Lives Matter. Represent your country. They have different groups. But I noticed that Americans, they protest. These are a lot of protests here. They walk in the street, protest, they make signs. Some of them even get arrested. But after 2 weeks, they go back to Walmart, they go back to work and go back to their house and forget the issues they were angry about. So I guess it's a little event. It becomes an event. A protest does not change anything, then it's just an event. So the delegation will include people from the group Time Done, because Time Done has particular issues about justice which need to be addressed, and you can't just have a group not getting things done. Then something new that happened was in Seattle, Washington, a graduate student was killed. An officer order said she was of limited value, just cut a check. So we have a new thing. Besides time done on Black Lives Matter, we have limited value to deal with. And I was going to do a presentation about this at the charity because the clients, I don't want to use evil words like limited value because that those evil words are like murder in Judaism. That's what Ivanka Trump said. So in the delegation, we want people from the limited value group also. That's our fifth group. So this is just the dash cam the statement, what he was saying about people being of limited value. This is another protest. This was the one in Seattle over the Indian student. They were saying, he was laughing and saying she was of limited value, just cut a check. So you see the protest, they raise fires, they get arrested, they put signs up, candles and all the stuff. But like I say, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump said we have to do something. And I really want something to change. And I really had to enforce why and how and the little details around the change. We have to reach out to the victims. We need to please begin to collect evidence and videos, organize Zoom calls. There are numerous pro bono international human rights attorneys, but we are going to have a delegation to the attorneys and we're going to have a delegation to the ICC. So here's the Harvard lecture. It's a philosophy lecture about correctives for the differences in culture, race, family background, language, class, beliefs, customs, norms, tastes, ways of thinking, legacy. Some of these don't have anything to do with what country you're from, like your taste or your beliefs. So we feel that the corrective would be some kind of verdict, but we do have to present the evidence. I have all my evidence on videos, and I encourage you all to get your evidence on videos too, because I see in the news every day and online in Facebook and YouTube every day things happening. So as I said, there were 8 judges at the ICC and now there are 18. The United States does not have a valid court anymore. So I put my diploma up there because I realized it was not a waste of time, and sometimes you got to put your credentials up. So the Caribbean diaspora is global. My sisters are in the UK, my best friend is in Germany. And since World War II, the United States was the servant who was given the most talents. Like in the Bible, it spoke about a master with 3 servants. So our king is Jesus, and the United States dollar was used to do all the trade and became very, very rich. It's the highest amount of reserves in all the banks. So even the UK pound is number 4 again compared to the US dollar. So I have a unique case because I had Americans coming to my parents' home in Jamaica from when I was 10 years old, impacting my life and impacting my choice not to go to school in Canada. So I don't know what you all are dealing with out there, but Harvard Business Review is the journal I use for reference all the time. I use it all through business school for my papers and stuff like that. It said, leadership is coping with change. So Kamala Harris was supposed to manage the country. I did contact Kamala, Maya, and Mina. I hope to get action from them because they were the ones putting out the idea that we can't just complain. And Kamala and Doug said, move the needle. That means to make a noticeable change or impact, modify something. So what was taken from me, this is my little tyke, and I went through 5 stages of grieving before my family sent me this picture. I figured this was a moment with God because I was in my mother's house in Jamaica and I didn't realize what my mother did. She bought a house directly in front of the elementary school. So we all had to jump the fence to go to elementary school. And the principal at that school, her daughter, I've been trying to call her on Facebook because she's the first female PhD in engineering. She also has a Caribbean Studies nonprofit. That's why I was contacting her. But there's my little tyke. I lost him because at that God moment, he was there with his great grandmother, my grandmother. Look at them sitting together. I should have left him right there because he'd be alive today. That's a little, the picture blown up. That's my mother back there getting us breakfast. So, what was taken from me? My little tyke, my fourth government job, my condo, my house, my health. But I just want to reinforce for parents, if you have a gifted child, my child tested gifted at 6 years old at Hagan Ranch Elementary School. This child is autistic, but he passed the gifted test and he's at Oxford now. So he's being pushed forward and accelerated. This gifted child is my nephew. His parents handled him very well and he went to Oxford and he has a PhD in neurosurgery. Of course, my little tyke is dead. So I was just discussing with a friend on Facebook today about my sister, the details, because in this culture, when they send somebody to do harm, sometimes you cannot detect it. But this sister of mine, one of 6 girls, she was the best mother, the best daughter, and the best wife. So I started to try to help my family to remember the synergy we had in Jamaica. We were such a strong, supportive clan. People could not break us down. Every Christmas we had a Christmas dinner. And so I made a little chart of what made us strong, the things in Jamaica that interacted together to create a good life for us and protect our children. So I noticed that the churches are very rich. The Catholic Church is worth 73 billion. Seventh-day Adventist Church is worth 15.6 billion. Church of England is worth 13.84 billion. The Church of Sweden is worth 11.41 billion. And the Jehovah's Witnesses is the only church that actually sold property to the government. They sold a $340 million property in Brooklyn to Kushners when Trump was president. Trump Kushners are together, they're aligned. So I think it's a little unusual business model and unusual for a religion. Here's the picture from the media of Kushner. It's the business model. I've been in that building. All the maintenance of Jehovah's properties are done by volunteers. I must admit, I give credit that the Jehovah's Witnesses are sheep. I just talked to a girl from Spain. She's so sweet. But this is how everything works, is that they're creating value for this organization, which is being sold to the Kushners. And George Rutherford, who was the second president of the Jehovah's Witness, he was related to George Washington. I just found this out. So he had a background in government, and he came out of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, which was worth about $17.5 billion, and they controlled Kellogg's cornflakes. And now we see how it turns out that he decided to go into land and buildings globally, and they're worth about $23 billion in land and buildings all over the world. But what I object to is that they say do not celebrate 4th of July, but yet the Jehovah's Witnesses are aligned with Trump Kushners. So another thing is that when Trump got those new judges to reverse Roe versus Wade, it aligned with Jehovah's Witnesses because Jehovah's Witnesses do not approve abortions either. So these are my activists. I'm counting on them. I emailed Kamala, Maya, and Mina. I tried internet, email, everything, because they're all the way up in Washington, which is like another country. I was in New York working a little bit, so I know how it feels. It feels like a different country. Here's an activist I really admire. I love this lady so much. It's Abir El Sajir. She's a social media influencer, but she's also a chef. But she always shows her love for Lebanon and Palestine, and she engages the world to take a look at these countries. When she feeds the people, she takes snacks that she's cooked to the traffic, people out driving on the streets. And I think it's so beautiful. She's out in the crops holding the flag, and it's just a different way of loving your country. And I admire her so much. She's such a great example. So, the motherland of the United States, when Christopher Columbus came, we know they came from Europe. And Meisner Park does look like the upper section of Paris, except it does not have the upper buildings. But this is what the upper section of Paris looks like. I can't afford to retire there, but I visited and I realized I saw the similarity, but the upper buildings are really beautiful. So NATO was with BRICS at a meeting, and the global outlook, I feel like since China is doing infrastructure projects for countries at a lower price, it improves the global outlook for countries that are third world or not as rich as the United States. And I looked at the poverty level in Bulgaria and Burundi. And there are more countries. There are countries in the world that are so poor, they don't even have garbage collection. They have donkeys to drive them. And then we have the contrast. We say we have a United Nations, and the United Nations does have something called 2030 elimination of poverty. But there are a lot of words out there, but words are nothing unless you actually do something. So when we look at Bulgaria and Burundi, and then we look at countries that are very rich, we see the difference. Now in Jamaica, there were 50 years of devaluing the dollar of Jamaica, which devalued the country. We just recently had China, Kamala Harris, European Union, and the Arabs help us boost the development in Jamaica. But to be degraded for 50 years is such a horrible thing. And I tell the Haitians that they had an earthquake and everybody came to help them. But the degradation of Jamaica for 50 years, nobody really helped because they didn't know it was happening. So I see a lot of land in the USA, and I thought that now that Governor DeSantis decided that he's going to put homeless people in jail. Well, there's so much land all over the United States that's not being used. So he should plant this land and have the homeless tend the land and use that crop for food. Here's water being wasted in the United States. On my way walking here, I saw this water wasted. And I know in poor countries, water and clean water is a very bad problem. And sometimes the Peace Corps goes in and puts a little Band-Aid and help them get water a little bit. But there's more waste. This is vacant land right near to FAU up here. This is by the trains. Now, when you put plants on the vacant land by the trains, you have a sound barrier. And a sound barrier is important because you have residential properties just next to the train line. The train goes all the way from Miami all the way up to New York. So if you put crops all along the train line, you will have the sound barrier. I went into a business I used to work for, and they're not recycling. See the plastic bottles in the trash? And you see there have all the cardboard and plastic in the trash. So although Europe has a zero waste culture, you see that the United States is wasting by not recycling in many businesses. Another thing, you can see how rich the United States is because you see all these very expensive machines and equipment like these. These are millions of dollars. These are probably $400,000 for this one, this one. This is what the poor countries need to do: clear land for crops, to make water channels, to make reservoirs. And so when a machine like that stands not being used, then you can realize it as man hours of a machine laying waste man hours. However you want to put it. If we had put these machines to work in poor countries, they would be making reservoirs and clearing land for crops. So the 31 million rich, which John Sarbanes spoke about 300 million against big money, 31 million rich with big money, this is how they rich, how they live. This is how they live, okay? And the king, Donald Trump, the media is saying he's a king now. So he's living like a king and have these huge, huge properties compared to what the pictures that we saw of Bulgaria and Burundi. What a difference. So Trump in 2021, he said that we should drink Lysol. And in 2024, I heard him say use them up. I wonder if the rich realize what the 300 million other people of limited value are experiencing. They do not have 10-acre homes or mansions. So why we should get the US dollars to create equity in the world is because we have seen the waste of the US. Here's one: not having homeless 10 crops. 2, not feeding with these crops. Wasted water, vacant land not used for poor crops, no plantings for trained sound barrier, lack of recycling, 3 instances in one business, no man hours on expensive machine, massive realty for rich. So there was no warning label. When I left Jamaica, I was supposed to go to Canada, and that's why I make a video call without any warning, because I didn't have any warning about the difference between hunter-gatherers and the tough intolerance and the things which are being said. I also was not prepared for the betrayal. Bill Clinton was betrayed with Monica Lewinsky when he was president. Donald Trump was betrayed with Stormy Daniels when he was president. Hunter Biden was betrayed, and he has 3 felony convictions, and his father had to pardon him. So betrayal is actually part of the culture, and if the president experiences it, people have to prepare to experience it themselves, because if a president is not immune, you know it's cultural. It can happen. So that's why I have the video without any warning. So I was looking at the data, and the best countries for women, and the United States went and fought in Afghanistan to take those hijabs off those women and give them more opportunities. But as it stands, the United States is number 10 in Reuters data. Female degradation, they are the 10th worst country. India is number 1 worst, then Afghanistan, Syria, Somalia, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Congo, Yemen, Nigeria, then the United States. Why are they going to take troops to Afghanistan and change something when they need to fix the United States? So there's a paradigm of betrayal, which I described in the White House. And Trump is back in the White House now, so we'll see how that evolves. So the United Nations does have the 2030 End Poverty Agenda in the world where greed, waste, betrayal, and misogyny exist. I want to television in 195 countries. I was on American TV before, but the issues which I really want to address are things people don't seem to want to talk about. There's nothing that the United States could give me that would be sufficient to repair the damage that has already been done. But I believe if they pay these fines and we stop covering up things, then there will be some change. So let me know. That's my email address. It's a very short email address, emmt@gmx.com. That's my phone number. And Facebook is where we are setting up the delegation for the International Criminal Court. I also got an admin, Mr. Issa, who is going to help us admin our groups so we can move forward with this. So let me know what was taken from you by email, text, call, video, and YouTube. The ICC court recently had a verdict of $900 million. From this global standpoint, US $5 billion is a fair verdict, considering the amount of waste and riches in the United States. I am one of 6 daughters. My daddy started training me at 9 years old. Me and my daddy are Cuban fighters. I encourage you, do not be afraid. Do not let something else happen and you have another protest. Start changing now.